Okay, I think I'm finally done with that card slot that's been flopping around trying to figure out what it was supposed to be. It's been everything from removal spell to an icy manipulator to at one time a relic barrier. I finally figured out what it needs to be. It needs to be the missing copy artifact that was originally in Olaro and has been in most of the control decks we've built since basically we realized how important it is to match your opponent's mana when they get Soul Ring and you don't have one. I put it back in the deck. I'm so happy to have it back in there. It's just too flexible and generally good. Plus, you can tutor for it with Muddle. It's just a great card that allows you to keep up with the opponent's Soul Ring slash Crypt, and that's exactly what you need to do. So, I mean, it is good to destroy target artifact. This could be a destroy target artifact, but as a copy, it's a lot more flexible and has the potential to do a lot grosser things. And in this deck, especially because of the equipment that's back in the deck, the Batter Skull, for example, copying that's insane. Feast and Famine, Fire Ice, of course, Shackles was always a good target. Jitse won't work, of course, because it's legendary, but still, that's a lot of really good targets on top of the traditional Soul Ring or Gilded Lotus that we would try to clone in most games, and of course Shackles. So I think it'll probably end up staying, and I think actually this may be, like I said, the final build of the deck until a new set comes out. I'm really happy with everything about the way this plays in this 30 life format. Of course, there is no Necropotence in this deck. I'm scrolling down so you can take a peek at the lands, but it's a grand total of 4 basic islands for tax, which feels real good. And it puts us up to 10 actual islands because there's 2 blue red, 2 blue white, 2 blue black, and 4 basic. So 10 basic islands for Shackles. There's 10 fetch lands. You've got one of each off-color white source and the Badlands, which is a singular target for dual lands that cannot normally get black and red. Not dual, but fetches rather. And you've got 4 lands that produce any color, along with the 4 really broken lands in the format: Ancient Tomb, Wasteland Strip Mine, and Mishra's Workshop. It really has everything in one compact mana base. Probably the only card, if we could go to 32, and if I thought the deck would support it, then we'd stick the Urborg back in and put the Necropotence back in the deck. But I don't see that happening. I think we're in a really good spot with the way that this deck is built now and the way that it plays out. It feels excellent to play. So I have a game for you, and it's a very interesting game. This, by the way, was not a loss. This was me joining a game by mistake and then trying to exit the game before it started and failing to do so. Anyway, but whatever. So I was playing against Rainbow Unicorn. Someone new. He's playing Grand Arbiter. I haven't. This person, we had a nice chat, and apparently he or she is actually, assumptions he. Uh, New-ish to Magic Online, so I guess this wasn't probably the most fun thing to play against. With that in mind, but hey, you know what? Maybe it was. Who knows? It depends on the personality type, right? So anyway, I've got a hand that's very strong against blue if I can manage to pull off the early tax. So that's exactly what I'm going to go for. So I'm going to play Enlightened Tutor, and this actually video has a purpose that's a little bit different from my usual. I am, of course, playing the Breya deck. Anyway, I don't need to keep my commander up, but we'll keep the Arbiter there for a little while. And I'm just going to let it run on play. So my opponent actually discards rather than land and to feed me with tax. And just in case that was actually a legitimate discard because he had no land drops, I go ahead and use my wasteland right away to do a test and see if he's playing around tax or did he miss his land drop. Because if he missed his land drop, then I might actually, well, I would deploy, except I don't have any lands. So I'm playing around tax, but only because I have to. I'm not going to play shop unless there's actually a reason for it. So we're just going to chill out here. So I drew island, and I decide that because I can accelerate to 4, and I have teachings, I'm going to go ahead and get deprive with the teachings and allow him to play a land. He does, and he plays into a signet. And I top deck Talisman. So awesome. So now I've got Deprive and I'm set up with the Tax Trap. And look what he's got here, Scorched Ruins. I haven't seen this card in ages. At one time, Scorched Ruins and its cousin, which is called Lotus Veil. Lotus Veil gives you 3 mana, but it gives you 3 mana of any color, like a Black Lotus. And they both require you to tap two and sack two untapped lands. Well, at one time, when mana abilities were a thing, these cards were worded differently. They actually said when Scorched Ruins, it was a triggered ability. So when Scorched Ruins enters play, you would have to sacrifice 2 lands. So what you could do with Scorched Ruins and with Lotus Veil is you could play, for example, Lotus Veil, and because mana abilities don't use the stack, you could immediately tap it for 3 mana of any color and then sacrifice it to itself, failing to sacrifice 2 untapped lands. And so you could actually play a deck with 4 Black Lotuses in it for a little while. Or if you wanted 4 colorless over a Black Lotus effect, you could play 4 Scorched Ruins, or more than likely, you would just play a deck with tons of absurd plays and you would run both. And so for a little while, these two were two of the best lands in the entire game because, well, it's just an utterly insane amount of mana to be getting. However, they later errated these so that they work as they were intended to work. And my opponent has one right here, and it allows him to play around tax better than a Deprive can do. Worst for me, he is able to fabricate into a Soul Ring. And then thinking he is going to play his Soul Ring, I went into Deprive, but he has a Fellwar Stone instead. So this is gnarly. So I was thinking about what to do here, and I decide colored. I can't. He's already got Scorched Runes. He's got a ton of colorless mana, and I'm going to have to deal with Soul Ring at some point. But for now, I want to keep him off 2 blue. So I'm going to Deprive, and then I'll decide if I want to play a Plains or not. And I draw Humility. So I was thinking about, okay, I could play Humility here just to keep Grand Arbiter off the table. I decide that actually what I need to do is I need to work my way through what is about to happen. I know a Soul Ring's coming, but he's probably not going to be able to do too much with it, so I'm going to go Mystical. Tutor for Mystical. Fortunately for me, he plays Tower, which doesn't produce colored mana. Plays his Soul Ring, and then with a ton of mana, he runs out Thran Dynamo into, and I'm kind of worried he's going to play Arbiter because it's really going to mess my plans up, but no, he plays another artifact. That's going to let him draw kind of Brain Geyser every turn. Actually, with what he's got going here, he's going to be able to Brain Geyser for 3. He's going to Ancestral Recall every turn. Well, it's going to be expensive, so Brain Geyser for 3 every turn, but still. Pretty gross. Fortunately, I did anticipate some grossness coming, and I got the Mystical Tutor, and that's why I played the Plateau. Boom. Vandal Blast him right back into having to rebuild. He's got 3 cards in hand, and he has rebuild plays. Cloud Key making artifacts cheaper, and I really don't have a lot going on. I'll just get the Dynamo down. I'm still hoping I can tax at some point. And I'd also really like to, well, wait a minute. Are we bugging out? No way. I can't believe we're going to bug out in this game. Well, I guess the most important turn happened. Yeah, we're going to glitch out. So anyway, I did... Well, all right. Well, the trajectory of the game is that we played a little game of cat and mouse, and eventually he got a little bit more mana, but I finally found something where I ended up playing a land. Oh, I found a source of black. So I finally play a land, and I Imperial Seal for Yogg Will. He does whatever he does, and then on the next turn I will and get the Wasteland back, Vandal Blast away his artifact mana that he had managed to play in the interim, Merchant Scroll for Force of Will, and strip mine Scorched Ruins during his upkeep, and then with that he finally concedes where I'm holding a Force of Will, and he's down to just 1 or 2 mana. But unfortunately, you didn't get to see the end of the game, but I kind of wanted to bring this game up because this was an excellent example where, although my opponent did lose this game, but the strength of Vandal Blast, he played perfectly. He never. I had a first turn tax, and he never let me tax, even with Deprive allowing me to pick up 2 lands. He still was able to play around it. Now, most decks will not have Scorched Ruins, but playing around land tax is certainly an art, and it's absolutely, I think, very, very important to do. up until the point when up until the point where playing around land tax is actually, detrimental to your game plan. If you actually start, if you turn it into a disrupting scepter for your opponent, that's probably no good. Um, there's a point where you have to kind of deploy. But the trick is, if you're going to get down, if you're going to break land tax, make sure that you do it for a really good reason, or that you rush out a bunch of mana so that they only get one shot on it, or so that the effect that you're doing, that what you're going for when you break the land tax is worth it. He did all those things. He did it perfectly. So this was a great game of somebody properly playing the tax and not allowing me to get it off despite my best efforts. And I thought that was excellent. I was very impressed by his play. So anyway, oh, we got somebody here. So that's it for that game, and that's it for the deck changes. The last video was super long. This one's going to be short. So hopefully you enjoyed yourself, and I will have a little more chat with my former opponent here and see what else he has to say, since we have an opportunity to get to know each other. So that's all I've got now, and maybe all I have as far as deck changes for a while. I've tried just about everything, and I think this is where we're settling. So until the next set, or until something changes. That's all I have. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.